Welcome in, everybody, to Diddy or Didn't He, Day 22. It is the 22nd night that I sit here and cover the Sean Diddy Combs trial for you. Every night we do it here at RadioMisfits.com. So be sure and like, follow, subscribe. You won't miss a darn thing here in this crazy. Let me tell you something about this case, if you guys have been joining us. You know that I have not been thinking it's going well for the defense or for the prosecution. I think it's going very well for the defense. I think that Diddy is probably going to walk. As a matter of fact, I used to kind of bury this, in the course of the show. I'd be like, I'd try and give little hints about how I was feeling. I can't even do it anymore. We're sitting here. I'm still fascinated. I mean, the dirty details that we get every day. This Jane has been fantastic. Let's hear it for Jane. Jane is, of course, testifying anonymously. She is a former girlfriend of Diddy, dated Diddy for a very long time, 3 years, broke up with him, we learned, only because he was arrested. She is now, as we say, she's got a separate case going against him, suing him for $10 million. She claims that she was also abused by him and forced into this relationship where she had zero say in anything. It's what he's being charged with. Sean Diddy Combs is being charged by the prosecution with some pretty heady charges, things that will land him in prison for the rest of his life. And quite frankly, I have not seen any evidence of that. I have seen evidence of a really bad boyfriend. I've seen evidence of a guy who's a dick. Let's just be honest. Diddy's a dick. He's not a nice guy. He's not a good dude. He's a jerk. He's got some weird pimp fetish with women where he thinks that, he can treat them a certain way. He's a dick. All right. That we know. But I don't think that that is a crime that he's being charged with. Certainly not being charged with being a dick. But geez Louise, another bad day, I think, for the prosecution. Jane is done. She finished up today. Today was an interesting day in that, she kind of got ping pong balled around. It started out with cross-examination. The cross-exam, Diddy's defense attorneys got their crack at Jane starting yesterday. Today was supposed to be the full day where they could sink their teeth into her, and they certainly did. Teny Geragos taking the lead. Teny Geragos, defense attorney for Diddy, taking the lead in the cross-examination of Jane. But then after that, after they finished cross and they did a really detailed job of cross-examining Jane, after that, then here comes old Madam Comey again, the lead prosecution. She comes out. Now she's going to get to redirect from the cross. And then after she's done, then we get the defense again. The defense came back out and they did a redirect, recross, re-exam. I have no idea where we are. It was fascinating, though, because they kind of honed in on the same area of interest, which concerns this big fight that Diddy and Jane purportedly had at Jane's home in LA back in 2024. We spent almost the entire day going through the details of that, and we'll get into that on tonight's edition of Diddy or Didn't He with me, Pugs Moran, here on RadioMisfits.com. All right, first, before we get started, though, we do have to tell you about a judge's ruling that occurred early before we got started in earnest today. Defense attorney Mark Agnifilo asked when they had a sidebar or a meeting, a private meeting among the attorneys and the judge. And in this meeting, the judge made a decision. That meeting broke up and they all go back into the courtroom. And before they brought the jury in, Mark Agnifilo, the defense attorney for Diddy, the lead defense attorney, he stands up and he says, I just want it on the record the defense's objection to a ruling that Judge Aaron Subramanian made in the robbing room within the past hour. So he's kind of breaking bad, get it? So they go into this room, the prosecutors and the defense and the judge before trial today, they go into a room and they hash something out. And the judge rules. And then they get in court, and now you got the defense attorney, he's kind of grandstanding a little, like, I just want everybody to know that there was a decision made behind closed doors that I don't agree with. So that's what this was. Before everything got started, Defense attorney Mark Agnifilo asked to put on the record the defense's objection to a ruling Judge Aram Subramaniam made in the robbing room within the past hour. Judge Subramaniam offered to clear the courtroom so that they could discuss this matter openly in front of Mr. Combs. Agnifilo said that wouldn't be necessary, Your Honor. All right. So do you see what happened here? They had a private meeting, just the lawyers and the judge. Diddy wasn't in there. They come out of the private meeting. I don't know what was discussed in the private meeting, but they come out of the private meeting. It didn't go the defense's way. So Judge Mark Agnifilo, Diddy's lead defense attorney, is like, I just want it on record that I don't like the way that meeting went. To which the judge responds, okay, well, we can redo it right here in front of your client if you want. And he's like, no, Judge, that won't be necessary. So I'm thinking some things were said in that room that they don't want said in front of Diddy for whatever reason. I don't know. Future payment of legal bills, maybe. I don't know. Mark Agnifilo doesn't want Diddy knowing. Anyway, so the judge ruled in the favor of the defense on this, ruling against Agnifilo. Here's what it was about. It says here, Agnifilo had emphasized the importance of a public trial, which is what we kind of have without TV cameras. He noted that public proceedings such as this can prompt members of the public to come forward with additional information about events described in the court. He then briefly referenced an encounter that Jane described back in January of 2024 in a hotel room in Las Vegas. So here's what this is all about. We're going to hear a story today from Jane about a sexcapade, we'll call it, that occurred in Las Vegas. This was not a time when Jane was with Diddy. Jane and Diddy were on, for lack of a better term, a break. Jane decided to go out and party with another hip-hop star. He's being called an iconic hip-hop star. So this iconic hip-hop star's girlfriend/wife. That's how it's being worded. We don't know. Girlfriend, iconic hip-hop star, girlfriend/wife asks Jane if Jane and her friend wants to come to Las Vegas for hip-hop icon's wife/girlfriend's birthday. Jane says, yeah. Remember, Jane and Diddy are on a break. So Jane gets on the plane of this other iconic hip-hop star. That's how he's being described. And she goes and she sees some things and she's telling stories. She's going to tell more of these stories. She told some of the stories about that night yesterday. She's going to tell more of them today. But before we get into the ones today, Diddy's defense here was the ask. They wanted the judge to allow them to name the names of the iconic hip-hop personality who was also engaging in freak-offs. Now, we'll get into these details. The judge said no. Doesn't have anything to do with this trial. Why are we at the prosecution also said no. Prosecution was like, no. What? This is about Diddy. This isn't about whoever it is that we're thinking of. And by the way, it isn't Jay-Z and Beyonce. That's who I went to first. This was a birthday party being held in January. Jay-Z does not have a wife or girlfriend. We know what Jay-Z has. Jay-Z has Beyonce. She's a wife and her birthday's in September. I looked it up. Do we know what hip-hop icons? And we're going to get into this more as the story unfolds. But what other hip-hop icons are there? Is it Kanye? We need to look. Well, Bianca Censori, if her birthday is in like January or late December or something, that's probably who they were with. That's probably the other iconic hip-hop person who engages in freak-offs. So anyway, the defense lost that. We're not going to hear the name. The judge says there's no reason to introduce that name. Now, this is one of the situations where I've been praising Judge Aram Subramaniam. I've been saying that this guy is running a tight ship. He's keeping this thing on track. And this is an example of him keeping it on track. He's not going to open up these issues where other high-powered people are going to be mentioned and their attorneys are going to get involved and there's going to be delays and all that. He's not doing that. However, in this particular instance, I wish he was, because I would like to know who these people are. All right, so let's get on. Jane takes the stand. She's being cross-examined for the second day now. They began late in the afternoon yesterday cross-examining Jane. But here it is, Teny Geragos. Jane says that after the Cassie Ventura lawsuit was made public, Sean Diddy Combs told her that he didn't know how she felt and apologized. All right, so let me word this for you better. So after it became public that Cassie was suing him, this is back in spring of 2024. So after it became public that Cassie was suing Diddy, Diddy picked up the phone and called Jane, who he had been a little estranged from Jane too. But remember, Jane is also a freak-off participant. So he calls Jane and he's like, I didn't know she felt this way. And so Diddy's very remorseful to Jane, talking about this new revelation of the Cassie freak-off tapes. Jane, one of his accusers, excuse me, said she and Combs were in contact around the time, but it was a difficult period for both. Jane says, we were both equally pulled in our own emotional battlefields, like every which way, she testified. She said she had hit a wall in their relationship and that there was, quote, a lot for me to wrap my head around. She was expressing her feelings to him while he was simultaneously under fire for a lot of other things. I don't believe that the videotape of him ragdolling Cassie in the hallway at the Hotel Intercontinental had been released yet, but it's probably coming. Jane confirmed that around this time, Combs told her that he was not aware of how she had been feeling. She's now, feelings about the freak-offs. She testified that she said she was sorry that she felt that way and that he did not want her to feel that way anymore. I don't know what any of this means. I'm trying to work that through. All right. And look, direct cross-examine from Teny Geragos. She asks Jane directly on the stand. At that time, you believe Diddy? Remember, the tape had just been released. Diddy's now tying up loose ends. He calls Jane. He's like, oh, baby, I'm sorry. I didn't know that was the thing. I didn't blah, blah, blah. Geragos asked Jane, when he said that to you, did you believe him? Yes, I did, Jane responded. From that period on, Jane said that Combs started encouraging her to be more communicative with him. So there you go, another one. Like a bonus. Look at that, a learning, the teaching moment. A teaching sex moment. Damn, baby, you got to be more communicative with your wants and dislikes. All right, now let's talk about the party in Las Vegas, okay? This was the source. This testimony here we're going to talk about was the source of the delay early today. There was a secret meeting, not a secret meeting, but a closed private meeting between the judge, the prosecution, and the defense, where the defense wanted the judge to allow them to mention the name of the person we're going to be talking about here. The judge said no, so we don't know who this person is. But let's go through the details because, man, oh, man, we're going to go into the weeds on details here in the next couple of segments. Defense attorney Teny Geragos revisited the January 2024 Las Vegas trip Jane confirmed that she had gone on with her friend and that they flew on another rapper's private plane. She said Combs was unaware of the trip because they were on a, quote, break at the time. So she's running around with other hip-hop guys. Diddy don't like that. Can't imagine Diddy would like that one bit. Hell, I got angry at a friend of mine when my girlfriend rode off with him on a golf cart at a golf outing once. I can only imagine. I'm like, where's she going? You can't go riding off on a golf cart with another dude. But she did. I didn't beat her up or nothing. And actually, I think it was fine. It's all together good. But Diddy and I are apparently not the same guy. I was a little irritated by it, though, so I can get that. I can get why Diddy's like, flying on private jets with other rappers? I'm the rapper with the private jet that you fly. You know what I mean? He's got to think that that's got to be something special about him. She's some rando Instagram model, some dime a dozen 10 spot, some smoke show just walking around the malls of America. We see him every day. She ain't special. He's the rapper with the jet. He doesn't want her going off with other rappers with jets. Geragos asked if this rapper in question was, quote, an icon of the music industry and also, quote, very close to Diddy. Jane agreed. She confirmed the trip was for the birthday of the rapper's girlfriend or wife. See, that's where we eliminate Jay-Z because we all know that Jay-Z's got a wife. It's Beyonce. So this isn't Jay-Z. Jay-Z is not also engaging in freak-offs. This guy is, and we'll get to that. Jane testified that she and Combs both knew before this January Las Vegas trip that this entertainer or escort, Antoine, remember Antoine? He's one of the escorts they use. All right, so Jane is saying that she knew that before this trip to Vegas, she and Diddy knew that Antoine also traveled and spent time with this rapper. All right, so Diddy was sharing his like sex horse or whatever he wants to call it. Diddy is sharing his sex horse with another well-known hip-hop star. I'm telling you, there is a Pandora's box here. If we just opened, I'd be able to do podcasts forever. All right, let's talk about what Eminem's getting into this week. You know, apparently there is a whole nother world out there. Jane testified that she and Combs both knew before this trip that Antoine, one of their sex horses, was also working as a sex horse for this rapper and his significant other. Why did they know this? Because Antoine had told Jane and Combs during one of their freak-offs, which this is the height of arrogance. This is Diddy and Jane. They're in a freak-off. Maybe they're on a Gatorade break or something. And Antoine, the sex horse, he's like, hey, you guys, did you know that I'm also having sex with, I don't know, let's insert Ice Cube and his, I don't know, you know, Dre and his, I don't know, whatever. Do you know that? So, hey guys, thanks for the ice cold Gatorade. This freak off is really going well. This freak off is going much better than the one that I had with these other hip hop stars. He's saying names is my point. The height of arrogance for Diddy is to think that Antoine ain't going and partying with them and going, this is like when I partied with Diddy and Jane. Antoine's a talker. You got Antoine's a talker. These are the sex horses that we know so far. We got Antoine's the talker. He's, you know, can't trust him. He's talking. You got Sly the porn star. He's trying to shake down Cassie for $10,000 or he's going to tell people, right? You got Paul. Everybody likes Paul. Paul's the trainer. Paul's Diddy's trainer. He also works as a sex horse part-time, but everybody loves Paul. We like Paul. Then there's the other sex horse. Remember the guy who shot up the Trump golf course? We talked about him in the early weeks. We learned about him in the early weeks. And then like there's Doug. Or maybe there's not Doug. Maybe I've just invented Doug. Maybe I just need there to be a Doug. Maybe I just need there to be some guy in like a Sears button-up shirt, you know. Looks like he teaches, you know, driver's ed at the local high school. You know, that guy. I want Doug to be a sex horse. All right, let's get back into this. Jane testified that they knew that Antoine was also partying with these people. Jane said that she was, quote, a little bit surprised upon arriving for the birthday dinner in Las Vegas with this other unnamed rapper to see that Antoine was seated at the dinner table. Look at that. One of her sex horses. She's now at a party where he's also there, and it's weird. Awkward, one would have to imagine. Later that night, 7 or 8 people, this was after dinner. They went to dinner. They go to dinner. This is a nice Vegas weekend. All right, so here's what we'll do. We'll get in. We'll fly in, McCarran, you know, middle of the day. You always get to Vegas at like 3 o'clock in the afternoon. You get to Vegas like 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Now you got like 3 hours. Go up to the hotel room, you know, maybe you go down to the pool. Not go to the pool, but walk around the pool. You know, I don't know if you stayed at this hotel before, whatever. You walk around. Then you go to dinner like 7 o'clock, right? 7 o'clock, you all meet in the lobby. Isn't that fun when you're traveling with a group of people and you're like, meet in the lobby at 7 for dinner. And you all meet in the lobby for 7 for dinner. And then you go. And then you go and you sit down and there's Antoine, the sex horse. You're like, I did not expect to see the sex horse. I still walk funny from the last time I rode him. Jane said she was a little bit surprised to see Antoine, the sex horse, at dinner for the birthday. But no one asked how they knew each other, so, you know, say nothing. Later that night, this is after dinner. All right, a little dinner. We'll hit the tables, and then we'll all meet back up in Antoine's room. We'll watch him rail somebody. Deal? All right. That's what we're going to do. So that's what they did. They said later that night, 7 or 8 people were in a hotel room watching Antoine have sex with a woman on the bed. Jane testified. The unnamed rapper, who was an icon, who put this whole shindig together, the unnamed rapper who Jane said she knew from afar, flirted with Jane in the hotel room, and he said something like he thought I was beautiful and that he always wanted to fuck me. The rappers, they don't have to have any game. They They don't have to have anything in the chamber. Just, big giant gold grill and a private jet. They don't even have to have songs that a guy like me has ever heard before. There are rappers out there with like $100 million that I don't even, come on. I got a 16-year-old son who's really into hip hop. I hear some hip hop. Apparently, I'm not hearing enough. Anyway, a lot of money in them there hip hop hills. Jane said she was a little bit surprised to see Antoine later that night. 7 or 8 people went to her room. They watched him. The rapper, who was not named, told Jane, "I always wanted to fuck you." Jane also confirmed when asked that at some point in this party, she took her top off and started flashing her breasts around the room. She's down. Jane is down. Do you remember Jane? I remember Jane's testifying on the stand now that, and then I took my top off and started showing everybody my boobs. Okay, why is this important? Because we have to juxtapose that against things that she said when she had a sympathetic prosecution leading her. Things like she started to cry when Diddy introduced watching pornography before sex early in their relationship. She started to cry. Yeah. And now she's like showing her. And by the way, I do not condemn any girl who's young and in her 20s, is partying with a bunch of people, going a little crazy, and then they lift their top. It's not a big deal, right? Shouldn't be a scarlet letter. A lot of kids. Look, all I know is that there are a lot of kids out there right now in their early 20s whose moms used to show their boobs at bars, in parking lots, festivals. Didn't matter. If there was a band on stage, your mom was probably showing her tits to some stranger. Just deal with it, folks. That's life. So Jane did it too. Although, again, in the jury, I'm like, she's not an innocent flower. She's kind of a party girl. She's an Instagram model, an OnlyFans model. She's hooked up with Diddy. Would you stop with you? She did say that when she showed her boobs to the room that it was just in the moment kind of thing. Yeah, man, just in the moment, man. But, might cost you $10,000 or $10 million. Might cost you $10 million in a civil judgment. They might think you were down. They might think that you were just, going along. Okay, let's move back to the days following the Cassie Ventura's lawsuits. Jane described Combs as becoming much more loving. She said that Diddy, she confirmed that she noticed positive changes in Diddy after the Cassie Ventura lawsuit was filed. She testified that they had, quote, some growth in their relationship after they got back together. Jane says, "I felt like I could assert myself a little bit more. Could you have asserted yourself enough to leave the relationship and end the violence?" That's just my question. Just as somebody observing this, you have shown over the 5 days now that you have been on the stand, Jane, that you had agency, you had push, you had jealousies, you had complaints. Some of your complaints were met. You were paid handsomely and still are being paid handsomely. I don't think there is a question as to why you didn't leave. And that's what this entire case is about. The case is about you not being able to leave, you being stuck, him controlling you. Good Lord. I'll quote you again. She felt, I felt like I could assert myself more. She told the jury. That's not a victim. It might be someone who's been victimized, going through a change. I don't know. I'm not putting him in jail for life. I'm just not. I can't do it. Show me something. Let's see here. All right, now we're going to break down a big fight. There was a huge fight that occurred at her place. This is, it's his place. She just lives there. Let's be honest. He pays for it. This occurred at Jane's home in Los Angeles on the night of June the 18th, 2024. There are a lot of details here. We got to break these down. This is where it gets a little crazy. Well, gets a little crazy, right? Like this whole thing hasn't been crazy from the beginning. Hold on, I need a drink. All right, let's do this big fight breakdown. Jane testified about an argument that they'd had back in June of 2024. She estimated that by the time the argument began, they had each already consumed 2 shots of tequila and at least 2 glasses of champagne. So they're partying. Although I don't know. In the life of Diddy, is this partying or is this Tuesday at 6? Right? I don't I don't know. 2 shots of champagne and tequila. I mean, for me, that's like, all right, who graduated? Which one of my nephews graduated from? I mean, 2 shots of tequila and champagne sounds like we're celebrating, but again, I don't know what these people are getting into. Jane confirmed, it says here, Jane confirmed that the woman they were arguing about, so they were arguing about this other woman. I don't know if this is Gina. She's not mentioned as Gina. Gina is this other woman who's been mentioned a number of times, who just drove Jane insane. At the time that Jane was seeing Diddy, Diddy was also seeing Gina. I don't know if this is Gina or just another one. So let's go through it, okay? Jane confirmed that the woman they were arguing about on the night of June the 18th lived in Miami and was able to spend far more time with Combs because of her proximity to him. See, this is what they were fighting about. The fight on June the 18th began because Jane was mad that another girl Diddy was dating lived closer. That's irrational, okay? We've all had irrational girlfriends. I know some of you ladies out there have had irrational boyfriends. We've been in irrational relationships. It's not Diddy's fault. Well, I mean, it's his fault that he's cheating, but it's not his fault because he's always been clear about his desires for open relationships. It's not his fault. So she's picking a fight on June 18th, 2024, about this other woman that lives closer to him and is able to see him more. It says here, Jane confirmed that the woman they were arguing about lived in Miami and it was her proximity that was the problem. She also confirmed, Jane, that she and Combs had argued about this woman many times before. Jane said, I think it was just a ball of emotions that night. There was a lot of just resentment for so many things. Yeah. I believe, and I know the details because I've already read them. You were fixing for a fight, Jane. You were fixing for a fight. And now we're going to show how that ended up. Again, you want to fix a fight with somebody, maybe pick somebody that's not as much of an asshole as Diddy, because he will give you the fight. I think I was just a ball of emotions. There was just a lot of resentment for so many things. She confirmed that she called Combs a pedophile, even though the woman in question is not underage. She also called him a disgusting monster. When she felt like the fight was escalating, Jane went into her bedroom. Remember, this is at her house that he's paying for. When she felt like the fight was escalating, Jane went into her bedroom and she locked the door. Defense attorney Teny Geragos asked Jane to confirm that Diddy had not touched her to this point, but instead had kept repeating, are you just not going to talk to me about this? So while Jane and she lives closer to you, and remember yesterday, we heard Jane fights bad. Jane throws things. Jane punches. We know that Jane is very violent and physical. She has testified to this on her own. So the defense attorney, Teny Geragos, in cross-examination of Jane on the stand here says, okay, but up to this point, he hasn't even touched you, right? And what is he saying? Is he saying, are you just not going to talk to me? When Diddy kicked open the master bedroom door, she then locked herself in the master bathroom. She yelled at this point that she hated him and wanted him to leave and leave her alone. Jane recalled Diddy saying that I was crazy, just a lot of yelling. Like, you're not going to even talk to me, he would say. So he's trying to talk to her about this, and she's raging. We've all been around people who are raging. Whether they're men or women, people rage. Emotional infants. When Combs kicked the bedroom door or the bathroom door open, remember, he kicked the bedroom door open, and then she goes into the bathroom. Now she's in the bathroom. He kicks the bathroom door open. When Combs kicked the bathroom door open, she then locked herself in the closet. Oh, my God. This is like one of them Russian dolls of rooms. Now she's in the closet. When he kicked in the master bedroom door, she locked herself in the master bathroom. She yelled at this point that she hated him and wanted him to leave, and that he said that I was crazy and that he just wanted to talk. He then kicked in the bathroom door, at which point she locked herself in a closet. She said she next slipped out of a tight dress that she was wearing and put on a loose dress that she could put on quickly. She was not able to change out of her strapped high heels, before Combs then kicked in the door to the closet. Jane then ran past him and ran downstairs, heading for the front door, but Combs caught up with her, kicking her in the back. We heard about this yesterday. Kicking her in the back leg, causing her to fall to the floor. Combs then pulled her up by her tippy toes. Combs then pulled her up to her tippy toes in a chokehold. She said she couldn't breathe. Jane left the house then and hid outside for a couple of hours before returning to her home. So remember, this is where she ran in the rain for like 3 miles and then hid, and then she went home. And he's still there. Jane confirmed that when she got back to the house, she was still very upset. She confirmed that she brought up the woman that they'd been arguing about again and again and called Combs a pedophile, once again, even though the woman was not underage. Keep making a point to say that here. Jane testified that she and Combs then went onto a patio area and she punched him in the face. That's when he punched her twice, in the eye and then again in the forehead. At some point after Combs punched Jane in the face, she got a hold of his phone and called the woman that she believed was the woman in Miami. All right, so this is going nuts. She runs away. She comes back. She punched him first. He shouldn't have retaliated. Look, guys, we can't retaliate. We don't retaliate. We don't hit women. We just don't hit women. Morally, we just don't hit women. Legally, we don't hit women. Okay? Just understand that. Woman starts coming at you, you got to run away from a woman. Oh, I ain't going to run like a pussy. Well, then you'll go to jail like an egomaniac moron. Move yourself from the situation. The laws are such that we will go to jail. A lot of bad guys out there. A lot of bad guys have ruined it for the rest of us who sometimes are in fights with crazy women. You know, we got to be careful. We got to go get out of that situation. Diddy didn't do that. Diddy stayed at the house, and she came back and she punched him. And then he punched her twice. Can't do that, boys. Can't do that, boys. You got to just leave. That's what bars are for. That's what bars and drinking buddies are for. Come on, man. You don't need to raise your hand to a woman. Combs, let's see. All right, so now, so she punches him. He punches her. She snatches his phone. Like, it's not even over. It's not like he punches her. She's like, "Girl, you hit me. I'm a girl." No, it's still going. And she's, now looking to make it even worse. So she's going to FaceTime this third woman. That's what she does. The woman told Jane that she was worried about the wrong things via FaceTime and that Jane shouldn't be panicking. So Jane's fuming, and this woman, she's probably at some club with her girls. "We're just dancing tonight. What do you want?" And she's on the face. "Oh, is that Diddy? Hi, Diddy." In the background, that kind of thing. Anyway, she tells Jane that she's worried about the wrong things, that she shouldn't be panicking. Two women then traded insults. And when Jane said, "He's beating my ass right now," Combs then hung up the phone. So Diddy's like, "Oh, that's enough of that. That's enough." He hung up the phone. It appeared that the woman then called Combs back multiple times and that Diddy didn't pick up. He can't pick up. He can't deal with that one now. He'll deal with you. He'll send you some, a necklace or something, and there'll be a text message, "How's my baby?" It'll be fine. He's been here before. He doesn't need to worry about her. Jane is the one he's got to handle right now. He's in Jane's place, his place that Jane lives in. Combs, Combs then got his phone back and FaceTimed his assistant, Jonathan. Another assistant. Another one. We're hearing about Jonathan now for the first time. Combs gets his phone back. He FaceTimes Jonathan. And, Combs got the FaceTime, blah, blah, to Jonathan so that the assistant could tell Jane that the other woman didn't go on the trip that Jane was jealous of. Jane was jealous because she thought the woman in Miami went on a trip with Diddy. So Diddy got the phone, called his personal assistant, and was probably like, yo, Jonathan, tell this crazy bitch that so-and-so did not go with the, like leading him. And Jonathan's like, "That's absolutely true, Jane. Crazy bitch X did not go on this trip." "Is that good, boss?" "That's good. That's good, Jonathan." And then he hangs up, and Diddy thinks that'll fly. That's Diddy. That's the world. That's the world he lives in. Let's see here. Jane, after the FaceTime with Jonathan, then got in a shower, which Combs followed her. Oh, this is a night. She just wants to take a shower. She gets into a shower. Combs follows her in. She was naked, she testified, but he was still wearing pants. Jane confirmed that she was calling Combs names in the shower. Names like fraud, bitch, pedophile. And that's when Combs slapped her very hard in the face. She confirmed that she continued calling him names, and then he slapped her 2 more times in the shower before they got out. Teny Geragos, defense attorney for Diddy, then asked Jane. Geragos asked if Combs said to her, "We've never fought like this before. And now that Cassie's lawsuit comes out, you're attacking me." So Diddy's starting to think, oh, this girl, she sees another lawsuit. She's thinking she might want to get in on this lawsuit. Now she's trying to escalate things. Diddy's saying that. Jane testified that she remembered him saying something like that, but said that her behavior was not related to the lawsuit. Jane says, at this point, I had just reached my breaking point in the relationship. Yeah, well, I mean, we're going to get into this. The breaking point in the relationship, he's still paying all of your bills. What exactly was the breaking point? Where you don't have to have sex with him anymore. Okay, that's fine. You shouldn't have to have sex with anybody you don't want to. You're not having sex with him anymore, and he's still paying all your bills. I don't get it. So would you believe that after that fight, the fight of the 18th, where she runs away, she comes back, she punches him, he punches her twice, she's calling the girl. The girl's like, you got nothing to worry about. She's like, fuck you, bitch. Then they call Jonathan. They get in the shower. She takes a shower. He's in the shower with her. He's beating her up in the shower, slapping her around. And then he makes her have a freak off. The same night. All right, now this is bad for the defense. I thought, are you kidding me? What is it, like 7 o'clock at night? How long has this been going on? What time do you people start partying? At some point during the June 18th altercation, after Jane had stopped yelling, Jane said Combs told her to put on some lingerie. We're having a freak off. Combs then used her phone to text Antoine. Remember Antoine? Combs then used her phone to text Antoine to see if he could come over. Combs had also earlier in the night in Jane's phone seen texts between Jane and Antoine in which Antoine referred to their mutual friend. That's the other rap star. So now Diddy is finding out that, wait a second, this is all the same night of June 18th. Jane said it was nothing at the time that her and Antoine have a mutual friend. She slipped into sweatpants and drove her car to the gate and brought Antoine into the property. Jane testified that Combs and the entertainer made small talk before heading to the bedroom. She said that Combs then gave her a look and pulled her aside into the guest bedroom. Diddy demanded that Jane explain what Antoine meant in the text message, mutual friend. As far as Combs knew, Jane and Antoine didn't have any mutual friends other than him. So this is still the same night. It's going on still. They're about to get into a freak off, and Diddy now wants to confront her about this text. That's when Jane told Diddy about the January Las Vegas trip with the other iconic rapper, which led to a hotel room encounter where Jane, saw Antoine having sex with a woman. She said she didn't tell Combs about a brief moment from that night, or that she said she didn't tell Diddy about that brief moment, or that she had given this unnamed rapper, Sly, remember another entertainer, that she had given the unnamed rapper Sly's phone number to use in freak-offs. Remember, he came up to her, he said, yo, man, you know anybody else who's in this lifestyle? I'd really like to F you. And so she gave this rapper Sly's number. Okay. Jane then told Combs, blah, 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 but it was a brief incident, and she gave him the number. Jane confirmed that Combs was outraged at this news, saying, "How could you go to another man's freak off?" Another man's freak off. Like, this is, how could you kick another man's dog? How could you sleep with your best friend's sister? No, in Diddy world, it's, how could you go to another man's freak off? He's very upset by this. Very personal in his very specific world. Then they went into the bathroom. Remember, Antoine is like on the bed covered in oil going, "Hey, are we going to do this freak off or not?" Now Diddy's all freaking out about, how do you know him? How do you know? What is this? So they went into a bathroom, and Combs got in Jane's face and told her to take an ecstasy pill. When Jane told him that she didn't want to have sex with Antoine tonight after all of this, Combs got in her face and said, in reference to the Cassie suit and charges, he got in her face and he screamed, "Is this coercion?" Because remember, it's the big charge that Cassie, it's a coercion. "Is this coercion?" he screams in Jane's face. They eventually went into the bedroom where Jane performed oral sex on Antoine. Jane and Combs didn't have sex after this freak-off session, which Jane confirmed was not typical. She'd also confirmed that after Antoine left, Combs again said to her, "I can't believe you went outside of us. I can't believe you went to another man's freak-off." She testified that she was quiet and in a daze. Combs' security then showed up to Jane's home and took him home. And that is one night in June of 2024. Holy crap. Jeez. I mean, that was like 4 stages of wildness. Ending with Jane blowing Antoine. All right, let's talk about what finally caused the breakup. Now, we know that they officially broke up when he was arrested. But was that really what was going on here? Jane told Diddy in many texts that she wasted 3 years of her life with him in hotel rooms. She also said, and here's a quote, "Please stop acting like I don't shelf myself to be just only your girl." So she's saying, please don't act like I don't. So she's being faithful to him, even though he's not. In one text, Jane told Combs, "At least say you understand that it wasn't cool to have me just doing hotel nights and everyone else got private jets all over the world. I don't even have anything post-worthy from our relationship." This is another bombshell. I think this is another huge win for the defense. They are showing her texts that she sent to him complaining about how she didn't get enough out of the relationship. How she's upset that she was just the sex toy for the hotels, but she would get to see him traveling around the world in private jets and going on trips with these other girls, and that made her mad and that made her jealous. He obviously saw Jane as less than, someone that he wanted to be associated with in public. He saw Jane as, excuse me, but this is how some men see women. He saw Jane as a whore. And maybe it just took her a little bit longer to realize that that was the game that he was playing, and that he could get any beautiful woman that he wants, and that there is nothing altogether special about Jane other than I'm sure she's pretty. But from having her on the stand for 5 days, I can tell you that she is ugly as sin inside. She is shallow. She is vain. She is jealous. She is vengeful. These are all the things that I would use to describe Jane after 5+ days on the stand. Not a good witness for the prosecution, and they probably expected her to be a slam dunk. So let's talk about the breakup. She says, at least say you understand that it wasn't cool to have me just doing hotel nights. It was cool for him because that's all he wanted you for. And everyone else got private jets all over the world. I don't even have anything post-worthy from our relationship. Girl, you are still not paying rent. You have been on the stand here. charge has been hanging over him for a year. He has paid your rent every single month, and he's still giving you money on top of that, and we'll get to that. It's incredible. It says here that Jane and Diddy spoke often by text and on the phone about their relationship. This was back in July of 2024. Yes, July of 2024, just before he was arrested and after he'd already been raided. His stock was already plummeting, and this is where she wants to talk about what she's getting out of this. Interesting timing. At one point, Jane texted Combs, "My dumbass thought if I fucked more and did more hotel nights, I'd finally get one of your trips." She texted him that. She texted, word for word, the transactional relationship that is absolutely not forced. She's going along with it. She's admitting she's going along with it. My dumbass thought. Okay, well, you're admitting you were dumb to think this way. My dumbass thought if I fucked more and did more hotel nights, I'll finally get a trip. That's the transactional nature of this for you. It turned out bad. It's a bad business deal that you made. He doesn't deserve to go to prison for life. He's a jerk. Should probably go to jail for the amount of time that he's been in jail. He's been in jail like a year. At one point, Jane texted Combs, "My dumbass thought that if I fucked more and did more hotel nights, I'd finally get a trip." And that's it. That's the Across the Cross concluded. Teny Geragos, I thought, did an exceptional job, but that's not all, because redirect, ladies and gentlemen. It's time for Assistant U.S. Attorney Maureen Comey to now try and clean up some of the mess that Teny Geragos just made of her star witness, referencing a message between Jane and Diddy from June of 2022. Comey asked this. Here's the message. I know what you want. This was from Jane to Diddy. "I know what you want, baby," back in 22. "I know what you want, baby, but not really in the mood for that part of it. I don't want to make you mad." Remember? This was the text where Diddy wanted her to have a freak off, and she said she wasn't in the mood, and he responded with, "It's all good." Now, yesterday, the defense showed that, and we all went, "Oh, man, Diddy's actually not a strong hand on this at all." He said, "Let's do it." She said, "I don't want to." And he said, "Okay." Well, now we get Comey. Comey's doing cross-examination. Apparently, there's more context. Context is always important. In that vacuum, it seems like Diddy's a cool guy. "Hey, let's do crazy sex." "No, baby, I don't want to." "It's all good." In that vacuum, Diddy comes out good, but Comey goes a little deeper in the text thread and reveals something that Jane herself didn't know. Jane testified that Diddy had been hinting that he wanted an intimate night and that she didn't want to make him upset. She says that that's usually the response that I get from him, is that he's upset if she declines. But she has declined in the past. She's establishing that she's declined in the past and he's been upset. "All good," Combs responded this time. Comey then pulled up messages that Combs had sent to Paul, one of their freak-off partners. Within the hour of texting to Jane, "It's all good," Diddy then texted Paul, the sex horse, "I'm going to need you to persuade her." See what he's doing? He's working both. He's talking to her. She's like, "I don't want to." And he's like, "It's all good." Hangs up with her, gets on the phone, Paul, and goes, "Paul, she's not down. You're going to need to convince her." So that adds a little more context to it, yeah? So now we're like, okay, they're both terrible people. Jane testified that she was not aware that Diddy and Paul had been colluding behind her back. Maureen Comey then asked Jane why she brought up hotel nights to Combs when they'd had discussions about the other women in his life. So apparently, like, "Why are you going here with her?" And then she would bring up, "But I do hotel nights for you." Jane says, "What I was trying to express every time I brought up other women was, why? Why do I have to be degraded in order to be with you? So that was her complaint. She's like, I want to be on the red carpets. I want to be on InStyle magazine. I want to be on, TMZ with you. But I'm not. I'm trapped in a hotel. She was upset about her position on the team. She's a wide receiver throwing a tantrum. She goes on to say, why do I have to break all of my boundaries and compromise myself? But those other women don't have to. But they can still experience you in the way that I want to. She lamented. That's Jane. Last week, the jury heard that Jane told Combs that she had to reschedule a party because, these are freak offs, she had to reschedule a party because she had just gotten her period and she'd sent him a photo as proof. See, look, proof. Period. Gross picture. Today, that was last week. Today, the jury was presented with another text from Jane to Combs in which she wrote, I reread all of our texts from the switch up to not feeling good to the accusations of me lying and playing you for money, and everything was fuck me. All because I ended up not feeling good. She said she was on her period. All because I ended up not feeling good and asking if I can postpone. You have flaked and disappeared so many countless times on me. I've nonstop given you these nights for 2.5 years. And this is the first time I just hit a wall and was honest and was asking for space to get better. Now I'm waking up to more fuck me, I'm a liar, I'm a cheater, a user, a sex robot. I'm just as hurt and upset. And we need to have a serious talk about everything, Jane said to Diddy. Okay, so again, that's a girlfriend talk. That's not, I'm afraid if I speak out of turn, he'll smack me, That's a girlfriend talk. That's agency again. Jane said she started telling Combs that she didn't want to do hotel nights back in 2021, but over the years, she'd become more and more vocal about it. She testified that at the time of the sobriety party, remember that one where she was trying to sober mommy him? She wanted to be the one that got him sober, so she was taking on that role where she was going to be the sober partner. She testified that at the time of the sober party in October of 23, Combs had been paying her rent for several months. She said in the months before the sober party, Combs would often bring up her rent in the context of hotel nights and had threatened to stop paying her rent in all different types of ways. Well, that's what happens when you have someone paying your rent. When you aren't just taking advantage of somebody, you would hope that the person who is paying your rent, and what a great position for you to be in, you would hope that the person paying your rent would be, benevolent about it. Wouldn't be, hey, I'm going to kick you out any minute if you don't do the dishes. You would hope that wouldn't be the case. But hey, free rent is free rent, and she's got an asshole, and she's got to put up with that. And is he a dick? Yeah. Should he do that? No. Should he just give her the place because he wants her to have a place to live? Yeah. But that's not him. He's transactional. They're all transactional. Everything comes with a price. Nothing is free. Nothing is because I'm just a good dude and I actually like you and these crazy freak offs we have together. I enjoy those, so I want you to be comfortable. I want you to be my little comfortable concubine. She goes on to say, I don't want to be mistreated anymore. I don't feel like performing loveless, cold sex. I'm not a porn star. I'm not an animal. I need a break. I don't want to do anything. I've hit a wall. It's been 3 years of me having to fuck strangers. I'm tired, Jane said in another text. She goes on to say that sex is sacred to me and I can't, well, she's on OnlyFans. What do you mean sex is sacred? The Church of OnlyFans? Sex is sacred to me, she says, and I can't be used like this anymore. I just want to make you happy, but it's creating a war inside of me. I need a break. I can't be in another hotel room doing drugs and performing exhausting sex for days and days. She texted Combs. She was then, by defense attorney Teny Geragos, again on recross, wherever we are now, I'm not sure, but this is the defense. This is Diddy's defense asking Jane these questions. Jane was pressed on keeping her home that's tied to the relationship with Combs. Teny Geragos referenced Jane's response on redirect that she would give all the money and all the gifts back if it meant she never had to have sex with other men other than Diddy in their relationship. So she'd give it all back if she could just have Diddy all to herself. Well, I mean, look, unrequited love, that's a problem. And I know it's not a big problem for super pretty girls like Jane, but even with the super pretty girls, sometimes love is unrequited. Yeah. It says here, you said at the time that you would willing to give all the gifts back if it meant that you could have Sean all to yourself. Here's a quote now. You were not willing to give up your home, though, right? Geragos asked, to which Jane responded, that's where me and my child live, Jane responded. That's a very hard question to answer. No, it's not. No, it's not a hard question. It is a choice. It is a life choice. You are right now in this moment deciding that your child growing up in an affluent, gated, guarded community in a mansion that's paid for by a hip hop icon, you've decided that that is more important. So yeah, you're going to keep that. That's a choice, and there's nothing wrong with that. You're a mother, and you're trying to provide as best as you can for your kid. But you then also don't get to claim all of these other things and put a man in prison for life. Sorry. Geragos asks her, but you weren't willing to give up your home, right? Well, that's where me and my child live, Jane responded. That's a very hard question to answer. Geragos then questions, you wanted to stay in the home you and your child live in, yes? Geragos asked. Jane responds, I was in the position. That's a very hard question. No, it's a difficult one for you to answer in this setting, but it's not a difficult question. All right, so now we got what? Defense recross again. Now Terry's asking more questions. All right, more from Teny Geragos. Teny Geragos then asked Jane a series of questions about the night of June 18th, 2024. That's the night we just went down, remember? That's the night where, there's a freak off that follows this crazy fight after champagne and tequila, and then she's running down the block and she hides. She comes back. Remember this crazy night we just detailed? Okay. So now Teny Geragos, Diddy's defense attorney, she wants to go deeper into that. Teny Geragos asked Jane a series of questions about that night, the night that Jane had testified that she was in an extensive altercation with Diddy at her home in Los Angeles. Geragos confirmed with Jane that she knew that the, quote, entertainer, escort, Antoine, was coming over. She knew he was coming over. She confirmed that he had only her, Jane's, phone number, and that she, Jane, drove her car to let Antoine into the neighborhood and could have instantly left that night in the car if she had wanted. Jane confirmed that she never told Antoine that she didn't want him to come in or that she didn't want to engage in sexual activities with him. Yeah, this is interesting because I was thinking about this too. What about all these guys, like these escorts who were paid by Diddy and are now having sex with these girls who are saying that these girls are having sex against their will? Isn't that guy technically a rapist? Aren't these escorts now like looping themselves into like rape things? If she is in fact being forced, if they're in cahoots, I don't know that they are. I think they're just paid professionals. I don't know that they knew the backstory. They showed up, they laid pipe, they went home. But here in this instance, here you got Antoine. At least Antoine's being left off the hook. She's saying, no, I was fine having sex with Antoine. It was fine. Jane confirmed that she never told Antoine that she didn't want him to come over. She also confirmed that she didn't, she also confirmed that she did not want to have sexual activities with him. When asked, Jane confirmed that she knew Diddy was the subject of a federal investigation at this time. I don't know what that has to do with anything. All right, now this is the, is this it? We're going to finish with this? Yeah, we're going to finish with this. Okay, so this is the last thing that they got into, and I think this is very interesting. Teny Geragos, Sean Diddy Combs' defense attorney, recross-examining Jane, who's been on the stand for 5 days. Finally, we get into something that I've been wondering about. And that is, Explain your income, Jane. Jane, you're sitting here. Explain your income. You got a kid. You're an Instagram model. You fly all over the world. You do not see. You're not a waitress. You're not picking up a shift down at Gamekeeper's sports bar. No. How are you making this money? So Teny Geragos is going to try and get her on this stand right now in front of all these working class jurors and explain to them how she lives this fabulous lifestyle. Let's see how this plays for the jury. Teny Geragos confirmed Jane gets almost $5,000 a month just off the top. She makes $5,000 a month just off the top. How? Child support from her baby daddy. She's got one kid, 5,000. Yeah, he was really rich. She got knocked up. Her baby that she takes care of in this beautiful Diddy house, her baby, she got knocked up by some rich guy. Don't know who he is. We don't know who she is. We're going to find out who she is. Some rich guy knocked her up, and now he pays her $5,000 a month. So that's good. We're right there. What's that? 60 grand a year? Right off the top, 60 grand child support. Okay. So Teny Geragos confirmed that Jane gets $5 grand a month in child support from her father, who is, quote, a wealthy individual. She also asked Jane how much she makes monthly through her OnlyFans account. She's got an OnlyFans account. Jane said that she makes anywhere between $10,000 and $50,000 a month for OnlyFans. Let's split the difference, right? Let's say 30, 28. I don't know. What would the difference be? Whatever. So there you go. So let's just say 30 plus 5. 35. She's cranking in 35 between OnlyFans and the wealthy baby daddy. All right. We haven't even touched Diddy's situation yet. All right. So she's got that. Geragos suggested Jane could probably afford her own house without the $10,000 a month additionally that Diddy gives her. So 30, 35, 45 grand a month she's pulling in at least. And there's more. This Instagram shit. He's making money off that too. Jane said that she's catching up on 3 years of debt. Yeah, remember furniture. The house is paid for and all that, but she went all in on the fancy furnishings for her house. She says she's got crazy furniture debt. She's got to live. You got to have fancy furniture. If you're going to be walking around with like Jane, you got to have fancy furniture. Geragos suggested that Jane could afford her own home. Jane said that she's catching up on 3 years of debt from having been with Diddy. Oh, yeah, right. Because what? You were going to be working in a coal mine? Those 3 years? What were you going to be doing if not with Diddy? I had to give up my career. What career? Would you stop it? Ugh. Geragos also confirmed that Diddy gave her more than $150,000 in addition to paying the $10,000 in rent. So he's been paying $10,000 in rent for 3 years. That's going on for another year because of their love contract that we learned about. But in addition to that, he has given her $150,000 in cash at other times. Plus all the jewelry, those necklaces, that Van Cleef diamond necklace, that's 200 grand. Good Lord. Geragos confirmed that Combs gave her more than $150,000 in additional over the 3 years that they were together. Okay. And this is where Jane leaves the stand. This is the last memory of Jane that the jury is going to have before she is excused and court adjourns for the day. So she's being asked to explain her income. Geragos is saying, what, you with all that money, you can't pay your own rent? You still got him paying your rent? To which Jane says, Geragos confirmed that Combs gave her $150,000 in addition to paying the rent in 3 years. In 3 years that they were involved. To which Jane responded, "Is that all I'm worth in 3 years?" Jane said. Geragos asked, "Did you want more than that?" "Do you think I'm worth more than that?" Jane said defiantly on the stand. to a jury. The jury's hearing these numbers, and then she's like, I'm worth more. I mean, how do you think that's going to play? That kind of arrogance, that lack of humility. She doesn't seem like a victim. I mean, aren't victims typically broken down? This person is not broken down. This person really thinks highly of themselves. Good Lord. Is that all I'm worth in 3 years? Do you think I'm worth more than that? Geragos asked. I'm asking if you wanted more than that. To which Jane answered, no. Oh, please. Guys, that's it. That's it for Jane. We're done with Jane. Jane's gone. My God, we don't know who we got next. This whole trial is like off the rails. They don't know if Gina is still out there. They don't know who they got. All right, Jane is off the stand. Jane's off the stand on her way out of the courtroom. We'll never see her again. Bye-bye, Jane. Weird moment, though. Upon leaving, Jane apparently hugged both Maureen Comey, the lead prosecutor, and Teny Geragos, the defense, who cross-examined her and who got into like back and forth. Remember they got into a back and forth over the bag? Remember Jane was like, oh, you don't have a bag like this? Remember? So that's weird. So on her way out, Jane's like, oh, girlfriend. What is up with these people? Also, is this a note here that I made just before she got off the stand? Geragos asked Jane if Sean Diddy Combs would say throughout their relationship that they could break up if she wanted. All right, so before she ended, I guess the last thing that Teny Geragos said was, is it not true, Jane, that throughout the course of your relationship, Diddy said time and time again that you could break up with him anytime you wanted? Is that not true? To which Jane responded, just because he said that, that's not what he meant, Jane says. She also acknowledged that she didn't want to break up with him, that she didn't want that to end. Of course she didn't want it to end. But imagine that. She's like, didn't Diddy always say anytime you want to leave, you can leave? Anytime you want to break up, you can be broken up? Didn't Diddy always say that? And her response was, yeah, but that's not what he meant. I mean, that's crazy ex-girlfriend talk. I'm sorry. Crazy ex-girlfriend talk. All right, guys, that's going to do it. That is the rant. That is night 22. Tomorrow, night 23 of Diddy or Didn't He, exclusively here on RadioMisfits.com. Like, follow, subscribe, all the breaking details. I'll give them to you every night as long as this trial goes. I am Pugs Moran. Once again, this has been Diddy or Didn't He on RadioMisfits.com.